I push open the front door of my childhood home, balancing a stack of journalism textbooks under my arm. The familiar scent of cinnamon apple potpourri washes over me, a smell that should feel comforting but now only tightens the knot in my stomach. 22 years old today. Another birthday spent trying to convince myself that this time might be different. Hello? My voice echoes through the foyer. The house sounds fuller than I expected, murmured conversations and the clink of glasses drifting from the living room. Mom mentioned a small dinner, just the immediate family. Nothing fancy, as usual for my birthdays. I round the corner and freeze. A bright banner stretches across the archway, bold letters proclaiming, "Congratulations, Dawson," where my birthday banner should be. The living room teems with relatives, aunts, uncles, cousins all dressed in their Sunday best, champagne flutes in hand. My cousin Cameron spots me first, her smile faltering. "Mom?" I call out, still standing in the doorway, my textbooks growing heavier by the second. My mother turns, glass of white wine in hand. Her perfectly coiffed hair doesn't move as she offers a dismissive wave. "Oh, Mallory, put your books down somewhere and come join us. Your brother got the Chicago internship." The Chicago internship. The prestigious media position Dawson applied for on a whim, with Dad's connections paving the way. "But what about—" The words die in my throat as Dad's booming voice cuts through the room. "Everyone, a toast!" He stands tall in his charcoal suit, arm around my brother's shoulders. "To Dawson Pierce, the future of Pierce Communications." When Morgan Media called this morning, I knew all our investments in this young man were about to pay off. Investments. Like the money that mysteriously disappeared whenever I mentioned my tuition payments. Like the double shifts I worked at the campus coffee shop, while Dawson drove the BMW Dad surprised him with last Christmas. The room erupts in applause. I stand motionless, my birthday evaporating into thin air. Dawson catches my eye from across the room. The corner of his mouth twitches into that familiar smug smile as he straightens his expensive navy suit, the one Dad's tailor fitted last month, while I patch the holes in my winter coat with duct tape. I drift toward the dining room, drawn by some desperate hope that at least the cake survived. The table overflows with catered platters, jumbo shrimp, prime rib, roasted vegetables arranged in perfect spirals. Nothing like the pizza we ordered for my high school graduation, while Dawson got a catered luau with a professional photographer. There it sits, a 3-tier cake with delicate fondant decorations. I step closer, noticing the scrape marks on the icing. Someone has crudely removed my name, replacing it with "Congrats, Dawson" in hasty blue script. A warm hand squeezes mine. Grandmother Irene stands beside me, her lined face creased with concern. "Happy birthday, sweet girl," she whispers, pressing a small wrapped package into my palm. "Put this somewhere safe." Before I can thank her, Cameron appears at my other side. "This is wrong," she murmurs, squeezing my hand. "So wrong." I swallow hard, fighting the burn behind my eyes. I will not cry. Not here. Not again. The memory rises unbidden. Dawson's high school graduation party with the live band and gourmet food truck, while mine featured a grocery store sheet cake that Mom forgot to pick up until the last minute. The journalism scholarship announcement that Dad talked over to discuss Dawson's summer internship. Every achievement of mine systematically diminished. Every milestone converted into Dawson's spotlight. Dad's voice cuts through my thoughts. Dawson carries the Pierce family legacy now. Morgan Media is just the beginning. Something snaps inside me. Not like a twig, more like a dam breaking after years of pressure. I walk to the center of the room. Conversations hush as relatives notice my expression. "It's my birthday," I say, my voice steadier than I feel. "Does anyone remember?" The room falls silent. Mom's face hardens, her wine glass pausing halfway to her lips. "Stop making everything about yourself, Mallory," she says, each word like ice. "This is Dawson's moment. Must you always need attention?" Dad steps forward, his expression darkening. "Your brother earned this celebration. You've been jealous of him since you were children. After everything we've done for you." "Everything they've done for me?" The words land like a physical blow. The extended family shifts uncomfortably. Aunt Patricia suddenly finds her phone fascinating. Uncle Ray examines his shoes. No one meets my eyes except Grandmother Irene, whose gaze holds steady with something that looks like pride. I pull my phone from my pocket with fingers that don't shake. Not anymore. "Lexi? It's me. Can you come get me?" "Yes, now." My voice sounds stiff and controlled, detached, final. I climb the stairs to my old bedroom, pulling my emergency duffel from under the bed. Essential items only, documents, keepsakes, the laptop I saved for. The bedroom door flies open as I'm zipping the bag. You're tearing this family apart over a silly birthday? Mom stands in the doorway, Dad looming behind her. After all we've sacrificed? The headlights of Lexi's car flash through my window. Perfect timing. I shoulder past them into the hallway, my steps measured and certain. Lexi waits at the front door, arms crossed, a fierce guardian in ripped jeans and a vintage t-shirt. I'm done being invisible in my own home, I say, not looking back as relatives peer from the living room. Enjoy the celebration. The night air hits my face as I walk out, whispers rising behind me like a tide. For the first time in 22 years, I don't care what they're saying about me. I am done. The morning light filters through thin curtains in Lexi's apartment, casting a pale glow across my workspace, a folding table wedged between the radiator and window. 3 journalism textbooks form a precarious tower beside my laptop. This cramped corner isn't much, but it's mine. No one scrutinizes my choices here, or compares them to Dawson's supposed brilliance. I smooth the wrinkles from my first paycheck from Foxglove Books. $614 for 2 weeks of shelving novels and recommending obscure memoirs to customers who actually value my opinion. The amount barely dents my student loans, but it's honest money untainted by family obligation. You actually going to cash that or just stare at it lovingly all day? Lexi leans against the doorframe, coffee mug in hand, her dark curls piled messily atop her head. Just appreciating the freedom. I tuck the check into my wallet. No one asking what I'm spending it on or suggesting Dawson could have earned more in half the time. Lexi crosses the room, setting her mug on my table. Speaking of which, your mom called my phone again last night. What excuse this time? The classic, we're worried about her routine. I told her you're 22 years old and doing fine. Lexi sits cross-legged on the floor beside me. You know, setting boundaries doesn't make you the bad guy. I'm about to respond when my phone buzzes. Grandmother Irene's name flashes on the screen. Mallory. Her voice sounds older, strained. Meet me at Riverstone Park. The bench by the duck pond. Come alone. Grandma, is everything okay? Just come. This afternoon. 3 o'clock. She hangs up before I can ask more questions. That was weird, I tell Lexi, explaining the cryptic conversation. Lexi's eyes narrow. Could be a trap. Your parents trying to get you back home. Grandma wouldn't do that. Even as I say it, doubt creeps in. Would she? Only one way to find out. Lexi grabs her keys from the counter. I'll drive you, stay in the car as backup. 3 hours later, autumn leaves crunch beneath my boots as I approach the weathered green bench. Grandmother Irene sits ramrod straight, her silver hair tucked beneath a pale blue scarf. A manila envelope rests in her lap, her veined hands clutching it like a life preserver. You came. Relief softens her features. Of course I did. I sit beside her, noticing how the afternoon sunlight accentuates the new lines around her eyes. What's going on? She glances around the park before handing me the envelope. Your grandfather suspected this might happen. He made me promise to wait until you were out of that house before giving you these. The envelope feels unexpectedly heavy. I slide my finger under the flap and pull out a stack of documents. The first page bears my grandfather's law firm's letterheaded trust document with my name in bold type. $174,000? My voice catches. Grandpa left me a trust fund? Grandmother Irene's eyes harden. Keep reading. Bank statements spanning 6 years tell a story that turns my stomach. Systematic withdrawals. Transfer receipts into accounts labeled Dawson Education, Dawson Vehicle, Dawson Housing. My parents' signatures authorizing each transaction. They emptied it. My fingers tighten on the paper. They took my money and gave it to Dawson. The fine print. Grandmother taps a paragraph on the trust document. Harold made me secondary trustee, but your parents had access until you turned 21. They drained most of it before then. The park bench suddenly feels unsteady beneath me. Does Dawson know? I don't think so. Graham and Melinda told him everything came from scholarships and business profits. A jogger passes, his golden retriever bounding ahead. Normal people living normal lives while mine crumbles into yet another layer of betrayal. There's more. Grandmother Irene's voice drops. Cameron found something. She wants to show you herself. My phone vibrates with a text from Lexi. Everything okay? Before I can respond, Cameron's slate gray sedan pulls into the parking lot. She hurries toward us, a leather portfolio tucked under her arm, her financial analyst's precision evident in her crisp white blouse and perfectly straight bob. I had to come straight from work. She sits on my other side, her perfume mingling with the scent of fallen leaves. You told her about the trust? She asks Grandmother Irene. Just now. Cameron opens her portfolio. After you left the party, I did some digging. Dad mentioned something fishy about Uncle Graham's finances years ago. She hands me a document on insurance company letterhead. My eyes catch phrases that don't make sense together. Mallory Elizabeth Pierce. Juvenile whole life policy. Death benefit $2,500,000. Term expiration, 22nd birthday. They took out a life insurance policy on me when I was 13? My voice sounds hollow, distant. With themselves as sole beneficiaries, Cameron confirms. $2.5 million if you died before turning 22. The document shakes in my hands. They were celebrating the day they no longer needed me alive. Grandmother Irene's arm circles my shoulders. Your grandfather kept copies of everything. He knew something wasn't right. I've found evidence of forged signatures on some of the trust withdrawals, Cameron adds, her financial expertise evident in how quickly she flips to flagged sections. We have enough to take legal action. Later that evening, Lexi's small kitchen table disappears beneath spread documents. Grandmother Irene sits with her reading glasses perched on her nose, examining papers. Cameron creates meticulous notes on her laptop. Lexi refills our coffee cups. We're your real family now, Lexi says, squeezing my shoulder. And we're going to make this right. My phone buzzes with a text. Dawson's name appears on the screen. We need to talk. I didn't know. I show it to the others. It could be a trap, Cameron warns. Or he could be another victim, Grandmother Irene counters. I type back, coffee shop on Elm Street, tomorrow at noon. The next day, I arrive early, documents hidden in my backpack. Dawson enters looking nothing like the smug victor from the party. His expensive suit replaced by jeans and a rumpled sweatshirt, dark circles under his eyes. He slides into the chair across from me. Mom and Dad said you ran off because you were jealous. I say nothing, just place the trust documents before him. His fingers trace the transfers, his face draining of color. These were my car payments. My apartment. He looks up, horrified. They told me it was all from scholarships and family business profits. There's more, I say, reaching for the insurance policy. Later that day, the bank statements spread across Lexi's kitchen table like fallen leaves, each one a fragment of my stolen life. Cameron leans forward, her financial analyst eyes narrowing as she traces the pattern of withdrawals with her fingertip. Here, she says, tapping a transfer from April 3 years ago. $15,000, moved the exact day Dawson put a deposit on his downtown apartment. She slides another statement forward. And Hare $12,000, the same week he bought that ridiculous European sports car? I stare at the papers until the numbers blur. Each statement tells the same story. My trust systematically drained while I worked double shifts to pay tuition. They didn't even try to hide it, I whisper. My voice sounds strange in my ears, flat, controlled, dangerous. Cameron pulls a folder from her leather portfolio. That's not all. Look at these authorization letters. The letterhead bears the logo of First Meridian Trust. Melinda's looping signature glides across the bottom of each page, elegant and precise. But there's another signature allegedly mine that I've never seen before. I never signed these. My hand trembles as I lift the paper closer. I never even knew these accounts existed. Classic forgery, Cameron confirms. The pressure points are all wrong and the slant is identical to Aunt Melinda's handwriting. I push back from the table, pacing Lexi's small apartment. Through the window, Cleveland sprawls gray and ordinary, people going about their lives unaware that families can dissolve on paper. Every major expense Dawson had, I say, turning back to the table. Every single one lines up with money taken from my account. Grandmother Irene arrives with a heavy cardboard box. Her silver hair catches the afternoon light as she sets it on the coffee table. These were your grandfather's private records. He kept everything. Inside, neatly labeled folders, contain decades of family financial history. Tax returns, insurance policies, business records from Pierce Real Estate. Dad's company is struggling, I murmur, flipping through the most recent statements. Has been for years. Irene nods. Graham leveraged everything for expansion right before the market crashed. Never recovered. Cameron pulls out a document with the Pierce Real Estate letterhead. Look at this succession plan. Dawson's named as the heir apparent, despite having zero qualifications or experience. He's still in college, I protest. Doesn't matter. Your father's been funneling company resources to prepare him. Cameron fans out more documents. And it's not just you. Uncle Ray was denied a business loan while the money went to Dawson's living expenses. Cousin Holly's college fund vanished too. A knock at the door interrupts us. Lexi glances through the peephole, then looks at me with raised eyebrows. It's Dawson. My brother stands in the hallway. His usual confident posture collapsed into something uncertain. The navy suit is gone, replaced by jeans and a plain gray hoodie that makes him look younger, vulnerable. Can I come in? His voice lacks its usual smooth edge. I step aside wordlessly. Dawson enters, his eyes widening at the paperwork spread across every surface. I didn't know, he says immediately. I swear, Mallory, they told me everything was from scholarships and business profits. Sit down, I say, gesturing to the couch. He perches on the edge, looking at the documents with growing horror. When Cameron explains what we've found even after our cafe meeting, the color drains from his face. This can't be real, he whispers, picking up a bank statement. Dad always said I earned these things. That my academic performance. You've never had an academic scholarship in your life, I cut in. Your tuition, your apartment, your Carol paid with my money. Dawson presses his palms against his eyes. When he looks up, something has changed in his expression. I have access to Dad's home office, he says. The computer password, the filing cabinet keys, everything. I study my brother, searching for the smugness I've known all my life. It's gone, replaced by something raw and genuine. Why would you help us? I ask. He stares at his hands. I didn't ask for any of this, but I benefited from it. He looks up, meeting my eyes. They raised me to believe I was naturally entitled to everything, but I never wanted it to come at your expense. The next morning, we meet with Franklin Webb, a financial advisor grandmother Irene has trusted for decades. His office smells of leather and paper, old-school respectability. This is enough for criminal charges, he says, examining our evidence. Fraud, forgery, conversion of assets. Cameron's friend Julia, a third-year law student, nods in agreement. The statute of limitations hasn't expired. They could face serious consequences. We need to secure all the digital evidence before they realize what's happening, Dawson says. Dad purges his emails every Sunday night. We develop a strategy, assigning tasks with the precision of a military operation. Dawson will copy the hard drive. Cameron will record conversations with other family victims. I'll compile everything into a comprehensive timeline. That afternoon, I drive alone to Maple Hollow Lake. My grandfather's writing cabin sits unchanged, a simple structure of weathered cedar overlooking steel blue water. The key still hangs beneath the fourth porch step, just as it has since my childhood. Inside, dust motes dance in shafts of sunlight. His desk remains by the window overlooking the water he loved. I trace the worn wood with my fingertips, remembering him here, strong hands writing in his leather-bound journal. The bottom drawer sticks, as it always has. I pull harder, and it surrenders with a groan. Inside lies a sealed envelope with my name written in his familiar blocky handwriting. For Mallory, when you discover the truth. My hands shake as I break the seal. My dearest granddaughter, if you're reading this, you've discovered what Graham and Melinda have done. I suspected they would try to take what I left for you. Their financial manipulations began long before you were born. I established your trust with Irene as secondary trustee because I knew they would try to control it. What I didn't anticipate was how far they would go. Remember this, their actions reflect their weakness, not your worth. With all my love, Grandpa Harold. The letter blurs as tears finally come, not gentle drops but violent, racking sobs that bend me double. I cry for the grandfather who tried to protect me, for the parents who saw me as nothing but a resource, for the years spent doubting my own value. When the storm passes, I step onto the porch, letter clutched in my hand. The lake stretches before me, steady and unchanging. The invitation to the family reunion arrived yesterday, Graham's annual power display at the lake house, featuring a special business revelation. My phone buzzes with a text from Cameron. Evidence portfolio complete. Multiple backups made. For the first time in 22 years, I feel the balance of power shifting. I've spent my life playing defense against my parents' manipulations. Now I'm on offense. They never expected me to fight back. That was their first mistake. Their last mistake was believing I would always remain invisible. On Sunday, I pull up to Maple Hollow Lake House and sit for a moment, breathing in the familiar scent of pine that surrounds the family property. The weathered wooden sign still hangs crooked from the archway, welcoming visitors to the Pierce family retreat. Grandmother Irene's silver sedan sits parked beside Cameron's red compact. Dawson's new black SUV gleams in the afternoon sun, likely another gift from Dad. "Ready?" Lexi asks from the passenger seat. "As I'll ever be." My heart pounds against my ribs as we approach the wraparound porch. Through the large picture windows, I spot relatives mingling in the great room, Uncle Ray adjusting his hearing aid, Aunt Patricia refilling her wine glass, cousins clustered around the stone fireplace. My parents stand by the refreshment table, heads bent in conversation, unaware of my arrival. Dawson appears in the doorway before I can knock. "They've been watching for you," he murmurs, eyes darting back toward our parents. Mom's been practicing her reunion speech all morning. The corner of his mouth twitches with something like genuine remorse. Before finding out the truth, I would have dismissed it as another manipulation. Now, after evidence review sessions, I recognize it as genuine. Mom spots me first. Her face transforms into a mask of maternal joy as she glides across the room. "Mallory!" She embraces me with stiff arms while her eyes scan the watching relatives. "We've missed you so much, sweetheart." Dad approaches with calculated warmth, champagne flute in hand. "There's my girl." His voice booms for the benefit of the extended family. Just in time for our special announcement. I feel Grandmother Irene's eyes on me from across the room. She gives an almost imperceptible nod. Cameron touches her laptop bag, our signal that everything is ready. "Everyone, gather around," Dad commands, moving to the center of the great room. The hardwood floors creak beneath the weight of family members arranging themselves on couches and chairs. This reunion is about more than just bringing the Pierce family together. It's about putting differences aside and focusing on our legacy. Mom stands at his side, her hand squeezing my shoulder with possessive pressure. "Family unity matters above all else," she adds, her voice honey, sweet. Her pearl necklace catches the light from the chandeliers as she turns to face the room, which is why we're so blessed to have Mallory back with us today. The calculated performance makes my stomach turn. These are the same people who scraped my name off my birthday cake without a second thought. "As you all know," Dad continues, straightening his coral tie, "Pierce Properties has been serving the Riverstone community for 30 years. Today, we're proud to announce that Dawson will be taking over as Vice President of Operations, effective immediately." Applause ripples through the room. I join in, clapping mechanically while catching Dawson's eye. His expression remains carefully neutral, exactly as we planned. Mom lifts a champagne flute. "To Dawson and the future of Pierce family success." I accept a glass but don't drink. Planning has taught me to stay sharp. "Actually," Grandmother Irene's voice cuts through the congratulatory murmurs as she rises from her armchair by the fireplace. "Before we toast, there's something Harold would have wanted me to share today." Mom's smile freezes. "Mother, this isn't the time for." Harold established trust funds for both his grandchildren. Grandmother continues, ignoring the interruption. "Equal amounts for Mallory and Dawson to be accessed at age 21. The room falls silent. Uncle Ray shifts forward in his seat, suddenly interested. "Mother is confused about the details," Mom says with nervous laughter. "Perhaps we should discuss this privately after our announcement." Dad steps forward, authority radiating from his squared shoulders. "This is a family matter, Irene, not appropriate for the full gathering." "I think we should hear Grandmother out," Dawson says, his voice carrying unexpected weight. Every head turns toward him, shock evident on most faces. "The documentation speaks for itself," I add, nodding to Cameron. My cousin rises with professional confidence, connecting her laptop to the television mounted above the fireplace. Within seconds, bank records illuminate the screen, transaction dates highlighted in angry red. "These are the unauthorized transfers from Mallory's trust fund," Cameron explains, her financial analyst voice commanding attention. "Each one coincides with a major expense for Dawson: his car, his apartment, his fraternity dues." "This is ridiculous," Dad sputters, color rising from his collar. "We've always treated our children equally." "Then perhaps you can explain this?" I step forward, pointing to a specific transaction. This transfer of $30,000 occurred the same day Uncle Ray was denied his business loan request. Uncle Ray stands abruptly, face pale. "Graham?" Is that true? Before my father can answer, Cousin Holly speaks from the window seat. The same thing happened to me. Her voice wavers. My college fund vanished right before freshman year. You told me there was never enough set aside. We made necessary adjustments for the good of the family, Mom interjects, her composure cracking. She whispers something to Aunt Patricia, who turns away instead of nodding agreement. One by one, relatives begin comparing Story's funds mysteriously redirected, investments that vanished, loans denied while Dawson received everything he wanted. The family facade crumbles before my eyes as years of manipulation surface in a flood of angry voices. Dad's face reddens to dangerous levels as he loses control of his carefully constructed narrative. Mom frantically whispers to anyone who will listen, but family members turn away. I stand in the center of the storm, steady and calm for the first time in years. This stops today, I say, my voice clear above the chaos. The power has shifted. I am no longer the forgotten daughter. I am the one holding the truth. I stand perfectly still in the center of the lake house living room, my spine like steel as every pair of eyes locks on me. The documents in my hand no longer feel like paper, they feel like power. Graham rises from his leather armchair, hand outstretched in what appears to be a peacekeeping gesture. His voice drops to that familiar persuasive tone he uses to close real estate deals. Mallory, sweetheart, family decisions are complicated. You couldn't possibly understand the sacrifices your mother and I made for this family's future. Melinda dabs at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. The tears come on cue, just as they did when I brought home a B+ instead of an A in high school. Everything we did was to secure Dawson's future in the business. The Pierce name means something in this community. Her voice wavers theatrically. Is it so wrong for parents to want their son to succeed? Uncle Ray shifts uncomfortably on the sofa. Cousin Holly stares at her hands. The silence stretches like a rubber band ready to snap. Graham steps forward, lowering his voice to a confidential murmur. We're prepared to offer you a generous settlement, something to help you start fresh. All we ask is discretion. His eyes harden. Or, you can continue this vindictive crusade and find yourself without a family at all. The threat hangs in the air between us. I let 3 heartbeats pass before answering. You haven't explained everything yet. My voice sounds foreign to my own ear, steady, controlled, unafraid. I reach into the folder Cameron prepared and extract a specific document, holding it where everyone can see the letterhead of National Life Insurance Company. This policy was taken out when I turned 13, $2.5 million. I pause, watching their faces. Payable only if I died before my 22nd birthday. The room goes so quiet I can hear the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. Melinda's teacup slips from her fingers, shattering against the hardwood floor. Nobody moves to clean it up. The expiration date matches perfectly with my birthday. I turn to face the extended family members. The very day you all gathered to celebrate Dawson while my name was scraped off my own cake. Grandmother Irene leans forward in her seat, eyes blazing with righteous anger. Dawson stands by the fireplace, face drained of color. She's making this up, Graham says, but his voice lacks conviction. I pull out my phone, tap the screen once, and hold it up. Melinda's voice fills the room. Once we're past her birthday, we're free. Graham responds on the recording. Then the money is fully Dawson's, as it should be. What about the trust? Melinda asks. Already handled, Graham answers. Once the policy expires, we transfer the remaining assets. Harold should have left it all to Dawson anyway. I stop the recording. Melinda sinks to the couch, her legs giving out beneath her. Her own voice has condemned her more thoroughly than any accusation I could make. A firm knock at the door slices through the silence. Cameron moves to answer it, and 2 uniformed police officers step into the room, followed by a woman in a dark suit who introduces herself as Detective Winters from the Financial Crimes Unit. Graham and Melinda Pierce? She surveys the room with practiced efficiency. Graham straightens his jacket, summoning the authority that once cowed real estate competitors and family members alike. There's been a misunderstanding. This is a private family matter. Detective Winters removes a folded document from her inside pocket. We have a warrant for your arrest on charges of trust fund misappropriation, identity theft, insurance fraud, and financial elder abuse related to the estate of Harold Prescott. Cameron steps forward. We submitted the evidence last week. All of it. The officers move toward my parents with practiced efficiency. The metallic click of handcuffs echoes in the stunned silence. Uncle Ray stands suddenly. They did the same to me. Convinced me to invest in a property development that never existed. My retirement savings gone. They took my college fund. Cousin Holly's voice shakes. Said it was being transferred to a better investment account. I had to drop out after sophomore year. One by one, family members step forward with their stories. The dam has broken. Years of manipulation exposed to the harsh light of truth. My parents shrink smaller with each revelation. As the officers guide them toward the door, I move to block their path. For the first time in my life, my mother can't look me in the eye. You celebrated the day you no longer needed me alive. The words burn my throat. You stole more than money, you stole my place in this family. Graham attempts one last appeal. Mallory, please, we're your parents. But you never broke me. I step aside, allowing the officers to pass. And now everyone knows the truth. They walk out in handcuffs, shoulders hunched, no longer the towering figures who controlled my world. Through the picture window, I watch them being placed in separate police cars, their carefully constructed empire crumbling in minutes. I remain standing as the red and blue lights flash across the lake house walls. For the first time in 22 years I am seen. For the first time, justice has arrived. And I am still standing. The scent of fresh pine and sawdust fills my grandfather's cabin as I run my hand along the newly installed bookshelf. 1 month since the arrest, and this place has transformed from a forgotten family relic to something alive again, something mine. That looks perfect, Grandmother Irene says, settling into the rocking chair by the stone fireplace. Her silver hair catches the afternoon light streaming through windows we uncovered last week. Harold would approve. Outside, hammering stops as the contractor finishes the porch railing. The cabin sits perched above Maple Hollow Lake, water glinting between the trees like scattered coins. I chose the renovation crew specifically because they knew nothing about the Pierce family scandal that dominated local headlines. The attorney called this morning, I tell her, arranging grandfather's leather-bound journals on the shelf. Restitution payments begin next week for everyone affected. Irene nods, fingers tracing the worn arms of the rocker. Some wounds money can't heal, but it's a start. The cabin door opens, and Cameron steps in carrying a cardboard box. Found these in storage, she says, setting it down. More of Harold's papers. We've spent weeks sorting through decades of family documents, the honest legacy beneath the Pierce family facade. My grandfather, the newspaper editor who valued truth above appearances, left behind more than just the trust fund my parents plundered. He left wisdom. The sound of tires on gravel draws my attention to the window. A black sedan pulls up, and my stomach tightens. Dawson steps out, looking smaller somehow in jeans and a plain button-down rather than the expensive suits Dad always insisted he wear. He's on time, Cameron notes, giving my shoulder a squeeze before slipping outside to give us privacy. Dawson stands awkwardly on the new porch boards, hands in pockets. 2 months ago, we were strangers sharing DNA and a last name. Now we're something Elsie survivors of the same shipwreck. The place looks incredible, he says when I open the door. His eyes hold none of the superiority I grew accustomed to. Thanks for inviting me. I usher him inside where Grandmother Irene waits. The attorney insisted all affected family members be present for this update. Graham and Melinda have accepted the plea deal. He begins without preamble once we're seated. 8 years for financial fraud, elder abuse, and identity theft. No possibility of early release. The words land like stones in still water. Our parents' criminal record, prison jumpsuits, visitors through plexiglass. I've declined succession to Pierce Communications, Dawson announces into the silence. He looks directly at me for the first time since the lake house confrontation. The board wants to rename it, start fresh. Irene reaches across the coffee table to take his hand. Breaking patterns takes courage. I've enrolled in education courses at State, he continues. Teaching feels cleaner somehow. The afternoon stretches into evening as we really talk about the patterns we're both determined to break. The competition cultivated between us. The warped values we absorbed. The authentic relationship we might have had. When Lexi arrives with Chinese takeout, we spread the containers across the new kitchen island. The conversation shifts to my plans for the Cabina retreat for students facing family estrangement. The first scholarship recipient will stay here next semester while finishing their degree. To new beginnings, Irene raises her water glass as sunlight fades over the lake. Looking around at these faces, Lexi, my chosen sister, Cameron, blood-turned ally, Irene, my moral compass, and Dawson, the stranger becoming brother. I feel something unfamiliar bloom in my chest. Not the closure I expected. Something better. A beginning.